The new technology of revolution. Perhaps you have seen this before. Protesters visibly blocking streets, having sit-ins, chaining or binding themselves to trees, cars and numerous other things. Does this sound familiar? I bet it does. These are considered confrontational tactics. A confrontational tactic is one that forces a response upon the populace whether or not it is deemed acceptable by the rest of the populace. During the 2016 presidential election, arose the emergence of the shock protester. Shock protesting is a communist power technique. Its purpose is to disrupt society through fear and intimidation. Shock protesters pay protesters financed by wealthy backers to assault the credibility of a prestigious candidate. Shock protesters likes to get in your face, yell and scream at the opposition or innocent bystander, blocking their path in an effort to create a physical confrontation. They crowd around you with their smartphones taking video. They are nothing more than pit thugs ambushing the unprepared to post videos on the internet for profit. Most do not even participate in the voting process. Since this style of protest yields very weak results, it is not an acceptable form of protest. This is considered to be the dark side of protesting. Pay me to scream for you. Peaceful protest yield not only better results but are more efficient and acceptable to the populace. Peaceful protests are more effective forms of protest. What do you mean more effective? Let's look at the first one, blocking streets. Why on earth would you block a street? The only advantage would be to bring attention to your movement and media coverage. And of course to block the street. Beyond that, you are nothing more than obstruction or an annoyance to everyone else. Also, you slow down the movement of emergency services trying to save lives, and create a fire hazard when blocking buildings. All blocking the street does is cause alienation and hatred towards your movement. You are considered a pest that must be removed. How many videos have you seen of impatient motorists driving through these barricades? Or protesters with their arms locked struck by a motorist who changed lanes at the last moment? I saw 30 or more protesters try to stop the SUV. Guess who won? Why are you putting your fellow protesters at risk of injury or death? When you create confrontation, you create violence. You run head-on into a more capable foe, law enforcement. And we all know what happens. They tell you to disperse. You of course chant or try to argue your point. They start moving forward. A scuffle breaks out. They then proceed to arrest people and detain them. What did you really accomplish? Nothing but jail time and a mark on your permanent record. Someone in the movement's leadership told you that was the plan, and you followed orders. They probably did not even tell you about a dispersion plan. Just left you to the hounds. When was the last time that blocking the street accomplished anything? And you really need to block the whole street to get your movement's message out. Even firemen collecting for 9/11 fund did not block the street. They usually station themselves under stoplights, on the driver's side of the car, and courteously ask for donations. When people saw a fireman holding the boot out, their attitude changed. Why? The visualization of the twin towers coming down. People could identify with what they were doing. If people do not identify with what you are doing, you are just wasting your time. Think it out first. Talking, not screaming, yields much better results. The whole purpose of any movement is to create a dialogue with the people. Initially, this should be done one-on-one and face-to-face in a conversation. The easiest way to achieve this is through casual conversation. Example: have you heard about this issue, or what do you think about this movement? Ask them questions of their feelings on an issue. Let them do the talking. Your job is to listen. Your objective is to create a positive dialogue, not a debate or argument. It is easier to yell at someone than persuade them to your point of view. If you're doing most of the talking, then you are not listening. Remember, people are seldom convinced after the first conversation. It usually takes anywhere from 5 to 10 times before they are willing to accept a new point of view. Patience was key. I remember a Porsche protester wanting me to sign a pledge for their party. I refused to do so. He then proceeds to browbeat his candidate's opposition and started berating me. It completely turned me off. I voted for the other candidate. Do not be pushy when you talk to people. Chomsky wrote, "You have to speak the truth to the people, not to those in power." The people in power already know the truth. The people do not. Your goal is to enlighten the people to the truth. Non-violent protests are able to recruit 10 times more people. Law enforcement and government agencies have a hard time dealing with non-violent protest strategies. Law enforcement is geared toward physical confrontation, not peaceful demonstration. Your goal is to awaken the masses, not a confrontation with law enforcement. If at all possible, keep a positive or neutral relationship with law enforcement. Pillars of government support. Police and law enforcement must be weakened, not destroyed, to transfer power over to your movement. We are the same victim of this government. You co-opt with police. You do not throw stones at police. You do not ever need to engage law enforcement. If your movement is done correctly, in time, law enforcement will join your side.